angels, hello and welcome back to the channel. Also hello if you are new here, if this is your first video you're ever seeing of me. I hope you go and watch my other videos about today's topic because I'm really excited. You guys know I'm like the unofficial secret history historian. That's neither here nor there. You guys can debate that in the comments. However, you guys seem to love on the channel when we talk about secret history. I still get DMs about it to this day. And you guys know I have a 3-hour plus video-ish explaining the entire plot of the book if you don't want to read it. Which I just find so funny because still to this day, I will get comments on that video being like, this is one of the best books of all time. Why would you encourage people not to read it? Da 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 da. Who are you talking to? But today, as you can tell by the title, you'll know what we're talking about. We're talking about the many failed adaptations of The Secret History. One of the most beloved and enduring dark academia books of modern day American literature, The Secret History has never been adapted on screen. Which isn't that surprising considering there's tons of popular books, most notably The Catcher in the Rye, that have never been adapted for the screen. But what sets The Secret History apart is that actually many people have tried. Like many notable people have tried, and it's almost as if the production is seemingly cursed in the same way that Hamden is. So today we're going to be taking a walk down memory lane and discussing all of the many times we almost got a Secret History adaptation. So a little bit backstory on how The Secret History got published. If you guys don't know, it was actually sold to Knopf for an iconic amount. I think it was some $450,000, which was rare because this was Donna Tart's debut novel. In fact, more copies had to be ordered because once the press reviews started to come out, all of the other major publications were desperate to get their hands on it. That being said, this book came out in 1992, and by September of 1992, Warner Brothers Studios had purchased the options and the rights to adapt The Secret History into a film. And not only did Warner Brothers purchase the rights, they actually chose a director to helm the film, the iconic Alan J. Pakula. With Pakula set to direct, the studio set their eyes on finding a writer for the film, which is where this story gets crazy because to think we could have almost had this adaptation is wild. Because Warner Brothers actually set their sights on Joan Didion and her husband John Gregory Dunn to adapt the screenplay for the film. I cannot believe that there was almost a world out there in which Joan Didion wrote the original screenplay for a Secret History adaptation. It seems like fan fiction to even say that out loud. At this time, Didion had cemented herself in the American literary scene. Talked about Joan Didion a decent amount on the channel, most notably in my Sylvia Plath video. If you want to hear a little bit about her career. In the typical Hollywood vein, there was issues right off the bat when it was alleged that the director, Alan, wasn't happy with what Joan and John were delivering in terms of their idea of what the film would be. There was a lot of back and forth, push and pull, and Donna Tart was kind of excluded from the initial conversation on how the movie would be adapted, which is something quite common you'll see throughout these adaptations, the kind of push and pull that she experiences as a writer. Now, unfortunately, in 1998, while still working on the film, Alan would pass away in a fatal car crash. And Joan and John, allegedly tired of spending years and years working on someone else's novels, would decide to walk away from the project entirely. Even after Alan's death, Warner Brothers still really believed in a Secret History adaptation, and they kind of were hesitant to give it up. So they ended up bringing in the playwright Christopher Hampton, who would go on to adapt Atonement to kind of write the screenplay, and they decided to get director Scott Hicks to direct the film. And after almost 10 years of not touching it, the contract lapsed and the rights returned to Tart and her publishers. And it wouldn't be until a decade after its initial publication, with her publication of her second debut novel, A Little Friend, that another film adaptation would be announced. This time the film was optioned by the brother-sister duo Gwyneth and Jake Paltrow for the iconic film studio Miramax. Meaning, yes, Harvey Weinstein was set to produce and most likely direct the 2002 adaptation of The Secret History. Especially considering that he and Gwyneth were fresh off their controversial Oscar sweep for the film Shakespeare in Love. Like, the fact that we have a Secret History and Harvey Weinstein overlap is crazy. Like, R.I.P. Julian Morrow, you would have loved the irony of it all. In fact, I think Harvey Weinstein is quoted as saying, "This is a fabulous project that I fell in love with as soon as I read it." Like, I'm sure you did read a whole bunch of college kids having a freak off in the woods and think, sign me up. And this is the association that's led to the long-standing myth within the fandom that there was a 90s adaptation in which Gwyneth Paltrow was set to play Camilla Macaulay. And while I'm not sure that wouldn't have happened, in all actuality, the brother and sister wanted to put a new spin on it for the new millennia. So Gwyneth Paltrow was actually tasked to write and adapt the book into the screenplay, with her brother Jake set to direct, following the footsteps of their father, Bruce Paltrow. Going back to that whole controversial Shakespeare in Love Oscars sweep that I was talking about a minute ago, it wasn't controversial because of Weinstein. He was still very much an indie film darling at that time. However, it was controversial that fresh newcomer Gwyneth Paltrow had beat out the light of Cate Blanchett for Elizabeth and Meryl Streep for One True King. But most specifically, that Gwyneth Paltrow had actually kind of started sobbing midway through her acceptance speech, and the press at the time was very unkind and kind of infantilized her and questioned her place within Hollywood. However, at the time, people were unaware that Bruce Paltrow, her father, who was in attendance, was slowly dying of incurable cancer. And it would be his death in that same year that would halt any and all production on The Secret History. After the tragic death of their father, both siblings decided to take a break from the Hollywood machine and immediately lost love for the project itself. So once again, contracts lapsed and the rights returned to Donna Tart and her publishers. And yes, you might be saying, every time this is bought an option, she's getting a big buyout, right? Absolutely. My girl's just getting paid and then waiting for her film to come, and it's never coming. Like, I don't know if she was mad or sad or like kind of finessing them, because talking about this is crazy, right? In the same vein, I just spoke about the potential for Joan Didion to write a Secret History adaptation. If Gwyneth Paltrow and Miramax had successfully produced this and she was Camilla Macaulay, we would have had Camilla Macaulay as Gwyneth Paltrow, Sylvia Plath as Gwyneth Paltrow, and Emma Woodhouse as Gwyneth Paltrow. What a time to be alive. I want to be in that timeline. I was just gonna say, I'm sure Donna Tart would want to be in that timeline too, but with everything that happened with Harvey Weinstein, I'm sure she feels like she dodged a bullet. And talk about things not aging well, our next adaptation would come again almost another 10 years to the dot with the publication of her Pulitzer Prize winning book, The Goldfinch. But this time, however, it wasn't on the big screen, but instead it was going to be optioned by Brett Easton Ellis and Melissa Rosenberg for the small screen. In fact, they wanted a 12-episode limited TV series. Like many fans, Ellis actually believed the world of Hamden would be better explored over a 12-week, 12-episode slow burn into a crescendo versus a 3-hour nail-biter at your local theater avoiding the inevitable. And so he set his sights on producing this with the help of Melissa Rosenberg, who is fresh from her success on the first Twilight film. Along with that, Easton Ellis was adamant that Tart would be very heavy-handed in the project, allowing her to work as a writer on the show itself, which can you imagine? The debauched and unafraid mind of Brett Easton Ellis, with his knowledge of Bennington and his friendship with Donna to steer the project, as well as the 2010s total indie emo darling aura that the original Twilight film had. Like, get Julia Wolf on the line right now. We need the soundtrack. I can't. To be honest, not much is known about this adaptation. It seemingly never really grew sea legs and learned to walk because Easton Ellis and Rosenberg couldn't find buyers for the production, which is not really unsurprising if you look at the top 10 TV shows of 2013. Literally, there's 2 versions of NCIS in the top 5. That just tells you everything that you need to know. It would have been an extreme rarity to have a major network focus on the campus life of a college student at the time. Most programming at the time was focused on the American government, police, and military, with a sprinkling of like a couple reality shows and ensemble sitcoms, which means it was not really the market for The Secret History, a slightly homoerotic, incestuous, whodunit Greek retelling campus novel. And before anyone in the comments says, what about HBO? What about HBO? 2013 was peak Game of Thrones and its global domination. In fact, it was the 3rd season of the show, arguably rated some of the highest out of all 8. There was no way that HBO was going to split their attention and profits any other ways, especially when their most popular show at the time would be the complete antithesis of The Secret History. The project was so vague that it's actually unclear in my research. I didn't find any like solid proof that Brett Easton Ellis ever actually had the physical rights to adapt The Secret History, or if he was just optioning around the idea. With the disaster that was 2019's The Goldfinch, I doubt we will ever see any of Tart's work adapted on the screen. Even though this is not about Secret History, I'm just going to take you through the issues that were The Goldfinch so you will understand why Tart will probably never allow anyone to touch her work ever again. So right from the start, the movie was plagued with production issues. It actually took a grueling 6 years to make. It was in 2014 when Warner Brothers and Rat Pack Entertainment approached Tart about the rights to adapt the Goldfinch into a film. But it wouldn't be until 2017 that they teamed up with Amazon Studios after finding somebody to finance the film. And we know how hit or miss movies produced by streaming services often are. The cast was stacked. You had Ansel Elgort as the main character alongside Nicole Kidman and Sarah Paulson. And because she was fresh off of her Pulitzer win for writing the book, you would think that Donna Tart would actually be very heavy-handed in the production of The Goldfinch. But in all actuality, she wasn't. The film was adapted by Peter Strong, I think I'm saying that right, who is responsible for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and it was directed by John Crowley, who had previously done Brooklyn by Saoirse Ronan. In fact, Tart was pretty much kept at an arm's length the entire time of production. She was unable to write the original screenplay, nor was she in the writer's room for any of the decisions made. In fact, Tart didn't receive any producer or writer credits or roles in the film, leaving Tart so burnt by the Hollywood machine that she left her longtime agent Amanda Urban, who originally penned her $450,000 deal with Knopf for The Secret History. That's some 30 years of working together down the drain. And if you've seen The Goldfish, I understand that movie is just bad, and it was critically panned. It went from Oscar sweeper contender to Amazon forgettable adaptation in the span of like a week. And that's it. Currently, Donna Tart holds the rights to The Secret History and any film or TV adaptations, and I don't think we will ever get one, even though it feels insane to say that because it seems everything is getting adapted these days. Yet no whisperings or hirings of castings or directors, hell, not even Reddit leaks talking about a potential adaptation have ever come out. So it's safe to assume The Secret History will be added to the long list of books that got away, with fans also noting that Tart consistently publishes a book every 10 years and she is 2 years past the publication date. Many people thinking that The Goldfinch and its ill-fated adaptation might be the last thing we ever hear from Tart herself. That being said, Amazon, Bezos, lights, camera, fades. Lights, camera, fade. So yeah, that's all for today's video. That's all I got for you. That is the many failed adaptations of The Secret History. What do you guys think below? Which one of these would you have wanted them? Like, realistically, think about it, because the cast of the 90s one would have eaten down. But listen, I know I don't like Weinstein. I just have an inking feeling that the Miramax one would have ate. I'm sorry to say it. I might tell a joke, but I'll never tell a lie. I love you guys. I will see you guys all in my next video. Mwah. Stay out of the woods in Vermont. Okay? Love you.